in. We'll just wait a minute or two just in case there's any other joiners. Whilst we are waiting for them to join, feel free to introduce yourself either either out loud or in the chat. Just let us know where you're joining us from, your org, your mission, and just a bit more information about yourselves.
I'm Chris, and I am the manager of a charity called Evie's Gift, and basically we support families of critically ill children in hospital with short-term practical financial support. I've only been working here since July, and I'm the first paid employee. So before this, it's a new charity. I only began in 2018, and it was just a trustee board before. So I'm kind of building it from the ground up. So there's a lot of work on, and I'm just kind of working on what are the priorities and how do we kind of grow the charity, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
like Chris, I've started working here at for Eden, which is a Cumbria charity, helping service users with autism, and I've started here since July as working as a digital coach, and so that could be anything from looking at tills, which I never thought they were expensive. You don't know about these things until you've done your research. To setting up tablets, to that's why I'm here today, to finding out how we can move forward with technology, websites and social networking. So I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, brilliant. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
I'm Tony. I'm a trustee of the Derbyshire Archaeological Society, and we couldn't be more different from the last two. We've been around since 1880.
Wow.
And it's all volunteers.
Wow.
But I mean, the reason for popping head above the parapet is we're just going into a period of quite heavy reflection, because we've gone through the pandemic, and some of our members still think it's 1850 or 1880.
Yeah.
On the good side, our membership secretary is resigning this year after 50 years of membership of the society. So people they either come in and go out, or they stick around for an awful long time. And just the mere fact of one of the trustees resigning has opened a small can of worms about personal data and where we keep it and things like that. I've got the Microsoft non-profit offering. I have no idea how to use it.
That's perfect. Well, we've got the right person on the call for you. That is Joel.
Yeah, we'll go through that shortly, for sure.
Yes, we'll go through that shortly. And welcome, Paul. Feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, everyone. So I'm Paul. I am it might sound probably more pompous than it is. So I'm the IT and facilities manager at Odils, which is Open Doors International Language School in Plymouth. We're working with refugees and asylum seekers, providing English lessons, and also we just started maths. We've got another activity that grew a lot, especially since the Ukrainian refugees came over, and we are mentoring heavily towards employment. We have been using Microsoft and Office 365 for quite a few years now. We've been through a let's say more or less forced process of digitalization since COVID hit. We went online with all our teaching needs. So we increased our fleet of machines, and we used Charity Digital Exchange in order to obtain some upgrades from I think it was some home edition laptops that we bought, and we upgraded them to enterprise in order to be able to link them to domain and so on. So yeah, I'm here to see what else if we can benefit from more help, because we are supporting people with little or no means, and yeah, whatever it is, it's welcome.
Brilliant. Thank you all for introducing yourselves. Got an interesting mix of different organizations, so hopefully we can all help each other on this session today. Before I thought it may be a good opportunity to start with a bit of context about our mission, just for those who may not know. So Charity Digital are a charity that help other charities increase their impact by being more digital. We have two primary charitable activities. So that is, as mentioned before, providing access to the software products charities need at dramatically reduced prices, and publishing content, so articles, podcasts, and videos, running webinars and events that educate charity professionals and volunteers on how to make better use of digital tools and technologies. So as we've said already, we're here to answer any questions you have about the services we provide and give any guidance you may need. But before we begin properly, just want to mention that this webinar will be recorded, so we can give the recording, slides and supporting resources to make them available to you over the next coming days, and also send those to anybody who couldn't make it today. So keep an eye on your inbox for the resources. So we've had some preemptive questions, which is great. So I've recorded these down, but if you have a question you'd like to be answered, please pop it in the chat box. We'll run through the ones that have been submitted in advance first, and then run through those from the chat box straight after that. Once the session ends, you will be prompted for feedback. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can continue to help your organization. So please take a few minutes afterwards just to share your thoughts. So I was going to say I'll start with the first questions, but we do have questions submitted by a few of yourselves. I didn't know whether you'd want to ask those yourselves. I can read them out, or I can pop them in the chat and you ask them yourselves. Up to you how you want to do it. Our first one is for you, Tony. So I can either read out what you submitted or post it in the chat.
I'll try it verbally now, and then you can correct me when I've forgotten what I've typed.
I've pasted that in the chat just so you can read it out.
Yeah, that was a general one, sort of general opening question. It's got a bit more specific since then.
Okay.
We have a need to get, forgotten the name again.
No problem. Shall I start?
OneDrive.
Right. Yeah.
For our membership database.
Yep.
Sharing amongst the trustees. So that's, if you like, job one.
Yeah.
And how its tentacles then cause you to suggest doing other things as well. Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, I'll just finish off adding to, oh, do you want to go, John?
Yeah, no, I can see the question there as well. So thank you very much for that, Tony. So just to go back to the question first before your additional part. So what we currently provide, or primarily provide at the moment, is further discounts on Microsoft Cloud subscriptions such as 365. And 365 includes features such as OneDrive, as you mentioned there, email. You can do your typical Office apps as well, so your Word, Excel, Outlook. Has a feature called Microsoft Teams, which is very popular these days for communicating between team members and sharing documents as well. And there's various other features that are included within 365, depending on the level of subscription that you obtain. So that's what we primarily do at the moment. But from March next year, Exclusive content will be available for our 365 customers in the form of learning and self-help content, which will be updated continuously by our partners at TechSoup. So they're the ones who provision the licenses. We also expect at some point next calendar year, not sure when exactly, that we'll be launching our own managed service, which, if you don't know what that means, it's, you know, if you're looking to set up 365 in a certain way and you're struggling, like you want to add your own email domain to it, you want to set up your users, assign the licenses, we can do all that for you as a managed service, and we're expecting that to relaunch next year. And just to go back again to what you mentioned about OneDrive. So OneDrive is included pretty much in all versions or non-profit versions of 365. Most of the time the storage is 1 terabyte, but it can be smaller for I would say some of the more basic licenses, so which is often taken by volunteers, as volunteers maybe at a charity for a very brief amount of time, whether it's once a week or they're there for a temporary amount of time, so they don't need to save documents. So there are some subscriptions which maybe have only like 50 megabytes of OneDrive, but there's more license options that come with 1 terabyte of OneDrive online storage, and that's per user. There is a number of different options out there for charities, including currently some donated versions. You might want to look at something called Microsoft 365 Business Premium. So the first 10 licenses of those are free to eligible staff members, so that's paid staff or executive unpaid staff, such as a CEO. And the Microsoft 365 Business Premium does come with your 1 terabyte of OneDrive that you require, as well as all of the Office apps, and they're actually downloadable versions, so you can download them on up to 5 different devices per user. So that's useful if you have a device in an office, if you work from home, perhaps use your phone, tablet, that kind of thing as well. It comes with Teams and some various other features which you can dive deeper into as well, if you need to. Hope you find that answer useful so far.
I think this is where we differ from most charities, in that most of our members will already have a version of 365.
Sure.
Because they've paid for it.
Okay, so it sounds like they might be using a personal version of 365.
Yes, they are.
Okay, so what I will tell you now, that immediately you need to get them off personal versions because they're not licensed for business use. So that you need to move them onto professional versions and exist within the same domain. So anything like Microsoft 365 Personal or 365 Family, it's not licensed for business use or work usage. So it's understandable as a starting point, but they need to be moving away from that type of license if they are actually doing professional work.
Yeah, all of it's unpaid. None of us get any money.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, there are free versions out there for non-profit versions to take advantage of.
Understood.
Great.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tony. I'll move on to Oliver's questions. So you've submitted quite a few. I will read them out one by one if that works.
Yeah.
So the first one, we are looking to change network providers to provide cloud access with a more reasonable financial cost, as we see this as the way forward. What key areas other than turnaround times should we be aware of?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say the main one to look out for, I would say, is increasing cost schedules. So what that means is many IT companies who provide managed services, they provide great introductory rates to kind of maybe reel you in, and then their prices raise quite quickly. Now, in standard business world or anything like that, if the price goes up, you can simply leave. But if they're managing something like your 365 instance or portal, they'll be very much integrated into the back end. So that means if you've had enough of their services and want to move elsewhere, it can be tricky to then transfer licenses and privileges over from one organization to another. And sometimes it can get a little bit messy at times. Not every IT company's like that, but it's quite common. And I've had to deal with a lot of organizations who face that issue. One thing around that which you might want to consider is that many IT organizations will request that your 365 subscriptions are provisioned by them. So they have the entire control of the subscriptions. What you can do is you can actually obtain the 365 subscriptions yourself, or via us, for example. And that means that you can ask them to manage the subscriptions, but they still belong to you. That means that if you were to make changes with the IT company, like I said, the introductory rate goes up, the prices go up, you won't need to worry about the ownership of the licenses, because you'll still have access to them. It won't be entirely controlled by the IT provider. So when I mention us there, we are a reseller of 365 subscriptions, and we can simply provide you the licenses that you need, some with a further discount, and then you can simply ask your IT provider to manage those licenses for you. And if your relationship were to change with them, you can simply still control those licenses, and you can ask your next IT provider to manage those instead. I would say that's the main point of that question.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joel. Next question was, seeing Microsoft 365 have many plans available, should we be open to flexibility to suit plans rather than putting everyone with one plan to save costs, to designated users such as E3 for staff and Business Premium for management?
Yeah, fantastic question. I like answering these ones. I don't know why I should say a little geekiness in me, but absolutely. We strongly advise charities to mix 365 licenses to both, mainly for 2 points. Obviously, for cost is the obvious one. You don't need everyone to be on an E3 license, which is currently £5 per month, which is per user per month, which is a great discount compared to buying it commercially. But if you've got 20 staff members or even more, that cost really rises up quite quickly. But the other reason why you want to mix and match, apart from cost, is that providing it might be useful to provide more strategic staff members with higher grade 365 subscriptions. So perhaps those, like, for example, if there's a member of your organization who's a GDPR officer or handles sensitive data, then you might want to give them an E3 license, because it comes with those extra security features, such as the Data Protection Center. But if your charity is also made up of someone who has more of a basic working day, where they just need to use emails, Word, Outlook, etc., you can put them on a simpler license, which may not have all the extra parts of an E3 license, but it still allows them to do their day-to-day job.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joel. Next one was, we've also had information that Microsoft don't offer backup on emails or continuity, which again, there's different options to use. In order to save costs where possible, is it worth being flexible here too? Like many businesses and charities, we use email to communicate and don't wish to see our communications and progress go down the drain because of not putting a backup plan in place despite further extra costs.
I'm not sure we got that information from there. There are backup options, add-on options available for 365. Just for your own research, you want to look at the add-ons called Exchange Online Archiving, 365 Data Loss Prevention, and you might want to also look at 365 Extra File Storage as well as a side bit note to that. So just have a look up for those, but there's definitely ways to back up with 365.
Brilliant, thanks, Joel. Next one, looking on the conditions of Microsoft 365 plans for a charity aimed towards our staff tablets. So these are Samsung Galaxy Tab A8 10.5-inch screen size. It appears we may not be able to get, for example, E1 because it covers tablet sizes under 10.5-inch and over 10.5-inch screen size. Is this really the case, as it seems a bit off to do that? I'll post that in the chat, just as that's quite a technical one.
Yeah, no, so you are correct. So tablets over a certain size, Microsoft require that you use a 365 license which has the downloadable apps feature. So something like Microsoft 365 Business Premium, E3, E5, something like that. You mentioned there E1. Now E1 doesn't have downloadable Office apps, so it doesn't sound like it would be compatible with your particular tablet sizes. So yeah, unfortunately, that is something that is currently in place by Microsoft, and over a certain size, you need the downloadable Office apps feature. So smallest license you'll need for downloadable Office apps would be business standard. But as I mentioned earlier, business premium gets the first 10 licenses for free. So you could take advantage of that and then perhaps load up the other ones with the business standard license, which we provide at a further discount of £2.22 per user per month, which is a bit of a further saving over the Microsoft one there.
Great, thanks, Joel. And just on to Oliver's final question. We are wanting to start digitalizing our work to minimize paperwork. What are some key points in moving forward do we need to be aware of, especially involving backup and convincing those in a higher position that this is the way forward to switch to the cloud?
My main point on this with that question is I suggest convincing your decision makers to actually start taking a look at the importance of cybersecurity and how data theft or loss is crippling to a charity from both an impact perspective and also a financial point of view as well. Many charities out there, particularly the smaller ones as well, what we feel are the most in danger after recent studies from our partners at like National Cybersecurity Centre and some studies we've done, is that smaller charities, they feel they're so small that they have nothing that a cybersecurity criminal would be interested in, which isn't the case. Many cybersecurity criminals would be considered as trolls, is the modern term, where they just want to have a look at your data, cause problems for you for their own enjoyment or benefit, which is a real shame, but it is common. We've actually recently done a webinar, which actually features myself, a bit of self-advertising there, but we did a webinar about this about a month ago with our partners at the National Cybersecurity Centre, or the NCSC, regarding cybersecurity. A couple of points. I strongly recommend having a look at that. That's on our charitydigital.org.uk website, which has a wealth of topics and other things as well. I also suggest looking at the National Cybersecurity Centre website as well, as it has a lot of free tools available of how charities can protect themselves from cybersecurity, meet GDPR compliance, and a whole lot of other free tools as well. So I'd say that'd be my main point from that question.
Great, thanks, Joel. Oliver, is that all of your questions answered? Do you have any questions on that?
Just one more, because it's made me think a little bit. Because there's one of the companies that we currently use the network with, they're asking us to say look at applying to Microsoft donation side, yet through Charity Exchange we're using TechSoup. I don't know if there's any difference with those two. Probably a bad question to ask.
So for what I understood there, so Charity Digital Exchange and TechSoup. So we're Charity Digital Exchange. That's our we have two websites. One is content-based and one is more of our transactional site where you can purchase the software and use our validation services. That software is actually provided by our partners at TechSoup. So we are the representative of them in the UK in terms of we sort of resell their products that are provided to them. So TechSoup don't have like their own UK website or anything like that, because we're the representatives of the UK, but they're most definitely our partners and friends, and we work very closely alongside of them. So if you're worried about any worried about who they are, we can certainly vouch for them, no problem.
Okay, thank you. That's everything that I have. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time and everybody's patience to get through my
No, of course.
No problem at all. You're very welcome.
Thank you very much. So now we are on to Chris's questions. So, as a charity supporting families with critically ill children, we'd like to create a digital peer support group where our users can offer guidance, support, and share experiences. What do you think would be the best platform to do this, and what are the main issues you foresee, both in terms of potential technical hurdles and also in terms of moderating and overseeing the communication that happens in this online space?
Oh, this is a tricky one, this one. I did take a look at this one earlier. The first thing that came to my mind without taking a massive deep dive, was that it sounds like you might actually need to go down the forum route if you're having users share information with each other. They share experiences with each other publicly rather within a forum rather than a one-to-one basis. What I'd also suggest is that you may want to take a look at organizations that provide support and advice via this format. So maybe like mental health charities who have support forums, and actually just check, actually speak to like not the administrator, the moderators, sorry, like of how that they set that up. Working from charity to charity, they may be able to help you. Maybe not the most in-depth answer you may be looking for, but it's what I can think of with my skill set.
Thank you for that, Joel. And so Chris's second question: we are a small charity and keen to increase our reach and build our brand. I'm the only paid employee working at Evie's Gift, and one area I want to work on in the new year, I'm currently working on creating a new website with a design agency, is our social media strategy. Given I have limited time, do you recommend focusing on one or two specific social media platforms? Also, how can I build our presence effectively while still having time to deal with marketing, fundraising, and grant making? And should I consider getting a volunteer to help?
Okay, yeah, I saw this one. So firstly, I'd like to direct you to a video. I'm going to post that in the chat, actually, which you'll find very useful, which was posted in May earlier this year by our sort of marketing content team. So it's how to, the title is How to Master Social Media. And it breaks it down in like 5 different steps, including picking your platform, knowing your audience. So it's a great video. So I would say that's your starting point. Getting a volunteer, I mean, it's always helpful having more people to help you out. If you can bring them in, someone reliable with a great skill set. You might want to look at, if you can, maybe getting like a graduate or something like that, someone who's hungry to grow and learn, and maybe someone who's come from that background of social media. What do you think, James, as well? I know you touch on this sometimes.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask Liz about this because Liz is our in-house email expert. I think it's useful to make sure that any emails that you put out are linking into your social media, which is linking into your website, and just sort of having a closed loop, having somewhere on your website to encourage people to sign up to your emails, sign up to your social media. And yeah, I think having it on the website and in your emails is probably the most important way to grow it. What do you think, Liz?
Yeah, no, definitely. It has to go hand in hand, social media with email marketing. And there's some great platforms out there as well. And you can get started on some that, will offer you some free emails. And obviously, email marketing is a lot more personalized. It's a lot more targeted. So it does have to go hand in hand. And the great thing about social media is that you can have sign-up forms into your emails. And then you can share your emails on your social media. So yeah, there's loads of overlap there. And it's a good way to reach out. It's an amazing way to reach out. Everyone forwards emails on. And it's look at a good email marketing platform. And you can reach out to me for that if you want.
Okay, thank you. When you talk about emails, are you talking about newsletters?
Yeah, that's right. So you could be creating newsletters just to keep your supporters informed, or you could be doing fundraising, outreach sort of campaigns. And you don't have to start with a massive amount of people. You could upload just a small list, and then you could build that list. So if you have your sign-up form on your website, that will go through into your email marketing platform. That triggers off a thank you, and then you can sort of be more targeted and retain the people you got, and also reach out to those people you need to as well.
Okay. And in terms of frequency, how often do you recommend putting that stuff out?
Well, that's a really good question, because it depends on your audience and it depends on what you have to say. You don't want to be too frequent, so you don't want to be bombarding them, but you don't want to be too infrequent either, that they forget about you after a couple of months. So I would probably say maybe weekly or monthly would be good. Maybe monthly to start off with, if you haven't done that yet. You could do quarterly, but Yeah, it's sort of nice to do one on a monthly basis and just say, this is where we are, this is what we've raised, this is what we need to raise. Thanks for your help. And it's just those encouraging ones as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say it all depends on how often you have new things to talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have new things to talk about on a weekly basis, people may enjoy seeing those come in. Recycling old material every day may be a bit almost boring for people, so they may switch off. So I'm actually posting a link to a podcast that I was on where we talked about email marketing. And one important thing I would say, once you get up and get going with your email marketing, is just keep an eye on your metrics. So you want to see what your open rate is, you want to see how many clicks you're getting, but then also really important one is to keep an eye on is your unsubscribe rate. So if that's low, then you know people aren't switching off. But if that's creeping up, then you may be sending out emails too often. And then, so yeah, you've got your open rate, which can tell you whether your subject line was engaging, your click rate, which can tell you whether the content was engaging, and then your unsubscribe rate, which can tell you whether or not people want to receive your emails anymore. So usually an indication of whether or not you're sending them too often. So yeah,
and also you can ask your subscribers as well, you know, the frequency that they want to hear from, because it's so easy to set up preference centers now and say, or just a quick survey. But a preference center, I would say, you know, we will be sending this out on a regular basis. Is this too much for you along down the line? So you're not losing those valued customers as well and clients. Okay. So there is lots of things that you can do, but that's a really good point to look at your metrics, James, definitely. Click to open is probably one of the most important.
Would you include blog posts as part of the email?
Yes, you can. You can include them. So you can include, I would definitely include links back to your website, links to your social media, your sharing, your following, and you can put little widgets in as well that you can include those posts. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say with blog posts, definitely include any images, because that can make it seem more engaging. And almost what you want to do is not really give the game away too early with your email. You may include your introduction, you may include a few bullet points from the blog post, but then encourage people to click through to your websites, and you'll get the traffic. Then once they're on there, they can sign up to your social media. But with emails, you don't want to make it too wordy. They are a snapshot of what is on your website. So yeah, just include a snippet, maybe a nice image just to make it presentable and a bit more fun for people to open. And then that will encourage them to click through to your website.
Great, thank you.
We did have a comment from Oliver. Don't know whether you want to mention that, Oliver, or yeah. But yeah, he says he does a newsletter for a friend for a different charity. Encourage others to send in information regarding your charity or things related to it. So thank you for your comment. Brilliant. Thank you all for that. That was a really useful discussion. Is that, we covered your questions, Chris. Are you happy with that? Anything else to add?
I think I'm happy with it. I guess, I mean, it feels very general, but at the moment, one of the things that I'm trying to focus on is how to drive more traffic to the website. So other than what we've already spoken about, is there anything else that you would advise?
Yeah, Google Ads, possibly one. If you have access to Google for nonprofits, they have a grant for Google Ads. So I'm not sure we take advantage of that.
We're building a new website at the moment, and I know the agency are going to factor that in. So
okay,
yeah, thank you.
I will post the Google for Nonprofits link because it is a great tool for those ad grants. So I've put that in the chat there. Do you want to quickly expand on Google for Nonprofits, Joel, just to give everyone an idea on it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably, yeah, so in terms of accessing it, it's available for so UK charities. I didn't check if everyone's a charity here or not today. We do get quite a lot of interest and traffic from non-profit organisations as well. And I just want to just clarify that it's for UK charities that can apply. for Google for Nonprofits, confusing as it is, they use the term nonprofits as a global branding thing, but when it's UK wise, they just charities. Yes, you would apply for Google for Nonprofits via the Google for Nonprofits website, and they have a section when you're applying where it asks for a validation token. You can obtain a validation from your charity digital exchange account. So that's the charity digital exchange account where you usually purchase products, licenses, that kind of thing. That's where you would obtain your token. Once you obtain your token, then you have access to various different sort of Google offers, as Chris mentioned there, sort of help setting up domains, websites, and you've got ad grants as well, to help you boost up as well. I know there's something with YouTube as well, but I've never dived into that. But I think it offers some sort of YouTube help as well. That's probably the most I can elaborate on Google for Nonprofits.
Thanks, Joel. Yeah, all other info will be in that link. And by the time you get onto the Google website, they will give you the exact breakdown of what you can get as a nonprofit.
Exactly.
There are a few questions of people who have not made it onto the call, but I will ask them just so that they can be sent the recording. So we
got a hand up.
Oh, go for it, Paul.
I just wanted to say that I've got a couple of questions as well. So whenever you feel the time is right.
Now's right.
Yeah, you go for it, and then I can ask the other ones after.
Okay, because as I mentioned, we went through this digitalization process, and a lot of it was related to the fact that we migrated on cloud. So there was quite a delicate process. We changed our IT support company, because you mentioned who owns the licenses and who. And yeah, we're heavily using SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, everything. We currently have probably 40 A3 licenses and nearly 500 A1s given out. For all our students. We're using Teams heavily for classes and sharing materials between teachers and classes, and SharePoint, we're using it mostly as a cloud-based server, let's say. But it's very handy because you can set up a personalized access to different parts of it according to job specs, and that keeps it safe and GDPR and everything. So the company that we work with was brilliant in helping us setting up, and they helped us get the Cyber Essential certificate and everything. But in order to keep us as dynamic as we want it to be, we did a lot of training, and we have a lot of in-house access to administering everything, from purchasing new licenses to creating new accounts and everything else. But now I'm getting to the question. Sorry if it took so long. I was wondering where can I address a question related to cost effectiveness, because we trust the company. They're brilliant, they're great, but as you mentioned, you guys could do things, and I was wondering if we could eventually get in touch with someone who could have a look at our costs and be blunt about it. Yes, guys, that looks good, or no, you can do better than this. I mean, in terms of support, and yeah, they're brilliant, but I can't. We never got to that point where we could compare or say, yeah, we. And also, I wanted you to, if possible, second question, if we could be directed towards some materials, because I watched hours and hours of tutorials on SharePoint administration and Teams administrations and everything. But I was wondering if there's something that you would recommend. Part of our licenses, for example, I was just looking now, we've got Dynamics and Power Automate free and Power BI, and we don't necessarily use those things because no one's trained exactly in those fields. So we're using the normal licenses, and yes, we're very happy, but I think we're probably using 5% of what we've got access to. So.
Okay, sure. So I'll go back to your first question, the first part of your question regarding your supplier. So you're facing an interesting scenario where you you note that you're using A licenses, so A3, A1, I think names were. So those are actually educational licenses, because of obviously your students. One of the restrictions for non-profit offers, which is what we specialize in, is that they can only be used by charity staff. They can't be used by students, and this is on the Microsoft eligibility criteria. So, and the issue is an organization, this is Microsoft, how they set it up, is that an organization can only access either non-profit discounts or educational discounts. They can't have both. And in your particular scenario, because of the quantity of students that I imagine you have, that you wouldn't be able to provide them low cost licenses anymore if you went to the non-profit type of licensing, because that would only be for your staff, and then your students would have to be using commercial licenses essentially. So it actually sounds like your IT company have done the right job in to getting you onto the educational licenses, because I think that's probably going to be the most cost effective side of things in terms of your license count. I'm not sure how many staff you have, but I'm sure that your student count probably dwarfs that. I'm glad that they've done a great job for you. And moving on to your second question, you're not the only one who uses only 5% of all the features like Power BI and all that. It's very common. I would suggest if you look at our partners at TechSoup, so TechSoup.org, they have a lot of different training materials, some free and some paid as well, depending on the sort of the content quality. You may also want to look in, and this is a bit of a left field choice, but this is something that has recently come into my life, is you might want to look up LinkedIn Learning. I'm not sure if there are offers, what the offers are there for charities or anything like that, or educational establishments, but LinkedIn Learning has certainly come recently into our lives and has been a really, really useful tool that I only wish I had more time to take more fully advantage of at this stage, but I definitely will. So yeah, that's why I'd recommend. Yeah, so TechSoup as a starting point. LinkedIn is a left field, and probably the obvious answer, which you've probably done already, is YouTube.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. Great. Yeah, I will for now ask these questions from those who can't be here today, and then we can move on to any other questions. So this is from Paula. Please, can you advise on the best way to include content on a website for teachers to download at any time that suits them? Anytime learning. How do you add clickable links, e.g. for Eventbrite, to a Canva and then to be used on Twitter?
I'll start off, and maybe you might be interested to have this say on this as well, Liz. So we don't provide Eventbrite ourselves, so difficult to comment on this fully. But I'd suggest looking at Canva FAQs, forums, and as I mentioned a moment ago, YouTube for advice on implementing this on the websites and that. As a side note, you may also want to check out something called Adobe Express, which is actually free for Charity Digital Exchange members. So you get up to 10 users for free. Adobe Express is, we need to get away from this, but we're describing it as Adobe's version of Canva. It's much more than that, but that's the best way we can describe it to get people to understand what Adobe Express is. But aside of being something similar to Adobe Express, it also includes a feature which is a bit of a hot topic at the moment, which is social media scheduling. Tend to get a lot of requests and interest about that at the moment. But also the other point as well, if you're already using Adobe Cloud products, like Creative Cloud is extremely popular. It can sort of synergize with that as well. With regards to content on a website, like for your teachers to download, I guess your first point, of course, is to start looking at CRMs. It's a huge minefield out there of CRMs, of what to choose, and there's no direct answer or correct answer, because they're all designed to try and accommodate an organization's sort of needs as best they can. But you may want to, we actually have several articles on CRMs as well on Charity Digital website. It's a hot topic. there's at least maybe 4 or 5 I think it's about 4 or 5 topics on CRMs on Charity Digital every year. It feels that way anyway. So if you look for our archives, there's things like top 10 CRMs to charities, top 5 sort of underused or unknown CRMs. So that might be a first point to help create an area for teachers to download from and ensure that they can access that CRM as well.
Brilliant, thanks, Joel. And then we had 2 questions about the heritage sector. So these I assume you can answer, Liz. Do you have any products or services that are especially discounted for the heritage sector?
And the next question, James?
And the next one, how can I find out what are the best resources for data protection for my heritage organisation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to refer back to Tony's sort of initial introduction when he spoke about data protection, because we have received grants and we have created this amazing, wonderful Heritage Digital Academy Hub. James, I don't know whether you can just pop the link in the chat there. And the Digital Academy that we did in sort of a partnership consortium with other organisations such as the Heritage Alliance, the Media Trust and Project Naomi Corn, and that was supported by the DCMS. So we basically created a programme that ran over a year, and that had 2 themes of 4 modules within each theme. And then we had standalone workshops and webinars for the heritage sector, so you could participate in that. This project has now closed. We are going to be looking to get some more grants in to carry on with this in the new year. But you can go onto the hub and you can have a look at all of the sort of resources that we've got there. You can have a listen to the webinars and also to some of the other stuff that we have as well. So Tony, you will find lots of resources there with regards to data protection, data compliance, and that was done by Naomi Corn, which is some really interesting sort of listens there for you to have a look at. You can get key skills, you can just build new practices, and you can learn more and train yourselves up in lots of different topics which are relevant to digital. With regards to any products that are sort of discounted, especially for the heritage sector, I would imagine that is not right, Joel.
Specific, I mean, there are, specifically is a tricky one. I mean, we have lots of different discounted products for charities on the exchange website. Depends what the heritage charity is looking for. Popular ones are obviously anything Microsoft based, Adobe. You probably want to look at your cybersecurity as well, like something like Avast or something like that. Might want to take advantage of the free discount for both Adobe Express and also Dell as well. You might want to check out our partners. Actually, there's an organisation we work with called In-Kind Direct. So they provide sort of donated goods, so it can be in the form of hardware, but they also do other things like maybe if it's like a food bank or a baby bank, they'll provide rattles or toys for children as well. So that they're a really good organisation to check out as well.
And we've actually had quite a few come through for the mail product as well with .digital. So that's been an interesting one. It's really helping the heritage sector as well. Mm-hmm.
And that's to do with your email marketing, wasn't it?
Yeah. We did have a few, obviously, with the last offer that we had, the Black Friday one, but there's still a current one going on, and there's free emails with a support package. So yes, quite a few have taken advantage of that. So yeah, just to be fully clear, Liz, could you just explain what .digital is and what they can provide? Sure. We offer .digital. It's sort of a cut down version for charities, and the .digital is quite a well-known, respectable, with a great reputation and powerful email marketing platform in the UK and also abroad. And the data is obviously held in Europe and in the UK. And we provide this to charities with discounted rates through our brand name is Charity Digital Mail. And you get personalised, tailored support, which most other platforms can't provide because they usually have a chat bot or they have something that you can't really get through to a lot of people, and loads of resources as well, obviously. But yes, if anyone was interested in trialling out .digital through ourselves, then I can set up a demo, or I could also do a walkthrough of the main features as well.
Brilliant, thanks Liz. That has concluded all the questions we've been submitted in advance. Before we end the session, were there any other questions or any comments on what has been talked about? Okay, brilliant. Thank you, everyone. So as we said, this session has been recorded, so we will send around the recording. We'll do an article with all the questions and answers, because I know we've sent around a lot of links, so I'll send that round to you afterwards. And as mentioned, there will be a short survey, so if you could just let us know what you thought of the session. These are a new concept and we're trying to make it a bit more interactive and face-to-face with charities that we work with. So we'd really appreciate if you could fill that out at the end. But thank you all for attending. It's been a really great session, some really great questions. So thank you so much.
Yep, it has been really good. Thank you for sharing as well with us.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. It's been really nice